There are moments in history when a single observation forces an entire field to rethink what it believes to be true. On May 17th of 1902, inside the National Archaeological Museum in Athens, one of those moments quietly took place. Among artifacts recovered from a shipwreck near the Greek island of Antikythera, a fragment that had attracted little attention at first was examined more closely by Greek archaeologist Valerios Stais. What he noticed was simple in appearance, but deeply significant. Embedded within the corroded material was a gear. That single detail would lead to one of the most important discoveries in the history of science and archaeology. The Antikythera shipwreck had been discovered in the early 1900s by sponge divers from the island of Simi. With the assistance from the Hellenic Royal Navy, a large number of artifacts were recovered from the seabed. These included bronze and marble statues, pottery, jewelry, coins, and many other valuable objects. These were an incredible treasure trove of finds for any museum. These things were transported to Athens, where they were cataloged and studied, and was often the case. The most visually striking objects received all the immediate attention. Statues and decorative items were easier to identify and interpret. Other materials, especially those heavily damaged by the seawaters, were set aside for later examination. One of those overlooked items was a mass of corroded bronze and degraded wood. It had been recovered from the shipwreck in 1901, but it did not immediately stand out as being significant. The effects of salt water had, of course, altered its shape and cracked its surface and obscured its original structure. It appeared to be little more than a fragment of damp, damaged material with no obvious artistic or functional value. As a result, it remained largely unexamined for a period of time, while attention focused on, of course, the more recognizable and more sparkly artifacts. Valerios Stais was not a casual observer when he encountered this fragment, though. He'd originally trained in medicine before turning to archaeology. He earned his doctorate from the University of Halle in 1885. He began working at the National Archaeological Museum of Athens in 1887, and eventually he became its director. During his career, he participated in and organized excavations across Greece, including sites in Epidaurus, Argolis, Attica, Dimini, and even Antikythera. He was experienced in identifying and interpreting archaeological material, and his attention to detail provided critical in this exact instance. When Stais examined the fragment on May 17th of 1902, he identified a gear embedded in it. This was not a decorative feature. It was a functional component, clearly manufactured with precision. The presence of the gear indicated that the object had once been a part of a mechanical device. This realization immediately raised questions about its purpose and its origin. Mechanical devices of this complexity were not widely associated with the ancient Greek world in the early 20th century. The discovery challenged existing assumptions about the technological capabilities of ancient societies. As the fragment and related pieces were studied further, additional details began to emerge. The object had been a compact device housed within a wooden case. Over time, it had broken into multiple fragments. Eventually, researchers identified more than 80 separate pieces. Among those were fragments containing gears and inscriptions. The largest surviving gear measured approximately 5 inches in diameter and had over 200 teeth. That level of craftsmanship required to produce such components was considerable, unheard of for the time. The device came to be known as the Antikythera mechanism. It's now understood to be an ancient Greek hand-powered instrument designed to model and predict astronomical phenomena. It could track the movements of the sun and moon. It could predict eclipses and represent important calendar cycles. It also included a system for tracking a 4-year cycle associated with major athletic competitions in the Greek world, like the Olympics. In modern terms, it's considered the earliest known example of an analog computer. The mechanism operated through a system of interlocking bronze gears. By turning a small crank, the user could set the device in motion. This movement would drive a series of gears trains inside of it that translated rotational input into coordinated outputs. These outputs corresponded to astronomical positions and cycles. The front of the mechanism included a dial representing the zodiac, while the back contained a spiral dial associated with longer-term cycles such as metonic cycles and the Saros cycles, which used to predict eclipses. Even now, this would work. One of the most remarkable aspects of the Antikythera mechanism is its complexity. Research does suggest that it originally contained at least 37 gears, all separate gears. These gears were precisely arranged to model irregularities in celestial motion, including variations in the moon's orbit. The design reflects a sophisticated understanding of astronomy and mathematics in the Hellenistic period. It also demonstrates advanced skill in metalworking and mechanical engineering. The dating of the mechanism places its construction between the 1st and 2nd centuries BC. It was already an old object by the time it was loaded onto the ship that eventually sank near Antikythera. The shipwreck itself had been dated to approximately 70 to 60 BC. This means the device had been in existence prior to that time and may have been transported as a valuable or specialized instrument, maybe even in the use of the sailing of this boat. The origin of the mechanism, of course, is still debated. Some evidence suggests that it connections to centers of learning, such as Rhodes, which was known for its contributions to astronomy and engineering. The astronomer Hipparchus, who lived in the 2nd century BC, is often mentioned in discussions of the mechanism because of the similarities between his work and the calculations embedded in the device. Other theories, of course, point to regions influenced by Corinthian or Babylonian astronomical traditions. Regardless of its precise origin, though, the mechanism clearly reflects a high level of scientific knowledge. For many years after its discovery, the full significance of the Antikythera mechanism was not fully understood. Early interpretations struggled to account for its complexity. It was not until the mid-20th century that more detailed investigations began to clarify its true function. Derek de Sola Price played a key role in advancing the study of this mechanism. In collaboration with Greek physicist Charalampos Karakalos. I apologize, I'm not Greek. I don't understand how to pronounce some of the words sometimes, but there it is. He used X-ray imaging in 1971 to examine the internal structure of the fragments. This allowed researchers to identify previously hidden components and better understand the arrangement of the gears within it. Advances in imaging technology in the early 20th century further transformed the study of the mechanism. As recently as in 2005, a team led by Mike Edmonds at Cardiff University used computer X-ray tomography and high-resolution surface scanning to analyze all of the fragments. 80 plus, remember. These techniques revealed fine details of the internal structure and made it possible to read even the faint inscriptions that had been obscured by the corrosion of the salt water for centuries. The inscriptions provided valuable information about the device's functions and the cycles that it tracked. Subsequent research continued to refine our understanding, and in 2016, additional inscriptions were deciphered, including numerical data relating to the synodic cycles of planets such as Venus and Saturn. This raised the possibility that the mechanism may have included features for tracking planetary motion as well. Although not all components have survived, this was under the water for a very long time, mind you. The device suggests that it may have been even more comprehensive than previously thought. One of the most striking implications of the Antikythera mechanism is the gap that it reveals in the history of technology. Devices of comparable complexity did not appear again in Western Europe until the 4th century. This indicates that advanced mechanical knowledge existed in the ancient world but was not continuously preserved or developed in later periods. The reason for this loss is not really fully understood, but they may include destruction of materials, the loss of technical traditions, and the limited survival of written records. It could also be down to people not wanting to share what they know. The mechanism also raises important questions about the broader context of ancient engineering. It's unlikely that such a device was entirely unique. Its level of sophistication suggests the existence of a traditional or mechanical design and construction, but few comparable artifacts have survived. This may be due in part to the valuable materials like bronze, which were often recycled. As a result, many objects have been melted down and lost. The Antikythera mechanism provides a rare and valuable insight into the capabilities of the Hellenistic sciences. It demonstrates that ancient scholars were not only capable of developing complex theories about the cosmos, but also of translating those theories into functional mechanical devices. It challenges the assumption that advanced technology is a purely modern development over the last 100 years or so, and highlights the continuity of human curiosity and ingenuity across all this time. Valerios Stais' role in this discovery really does remain central. His recognition of the gear within the fragment was the key moment that brought the mechanism to attention. Without that observation, without his observation, the object might have remained unidentified for much longer. His work illustrates the importance of careful examination and the value of expertise in interpreting archaeological materials. Today, the fragment of the Antikythera mechanism, all of them, are preserved in the National Archaeological Museum in Athens. They're displayed alongside reconstructions that illustrate how the device may have originally appeared and functioned. Ongoing research continues to explore its design, its capabilities, and its historical content and context. Each new study adds to our understanding, but the mechanism itself still retains elements of mystery within it. The discovery of the Antikythera mechanism is a reminder that the past contains knowledge that's not always immediately visible or fully understood. It shows that important insights can emerge from careful observation and sustained investigation. It also demonstrates that historical assumptions may be open to revision when the new evidence appears. And this is a good reminder that this is happening all the time. We might think we know all the answers, but we really don't. And as we consider the significance of this particular discovery, it's worth reflecting on how much of the ancient world still remains mostly unexplored or only partially understood. The Antikythera mechanism is one example of how a single object can reshape our understanding of an entire period of human history. It suggests that other discoveries of similar importance may still be waiting to be recognized. But now I want to hear from you in the comments. If a discovery like this could be completely capable of changing what we know about ancient science, what area of history do you think is most likely to surprise us next? And there's got to be quite a few. And of course, as always, if you enjoy stories like this, make sure you follow the History Happens Facebook page for more deep dives into history's most fascinating moments. And subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode. Remember, every subscription helps. And thank you for watching.